Hey,
happen to have too long a string name.
hey, yo, hammers down. We're streaming. We're live.
Cool. Let me start reaching out to the universe and letting them know we're here.
Fishy, fishy.
Alright. Oh, yeah, that looks good.
Thank you. I'm gonna do like more backgrounds with scenery and stuff.
Fantastic clip or thumbnail. I love that one. It was a great thumbnail.
Thank you.
So I think I figured out how to piss off everybody. And that's if you had Taylor Swift play the Super Bowl as the halftime
Taylor Karen.
special.
She is now threatened 2 separate legal actions and 2 separate things. She is Taylor Karen.
Okay, I'm just saying. I think it would piss off both football fans and Swifties simultaneously. Which,
I
if
think-
my understanding of American culture is correct, that would be 99% of the population.
I think that they should just have her play in Travis Kelce's spot. See what happens.
I mean,
I think she'd make a great defensive end in the NFL.
Pollo Zapato, somewhere in there's a tight end joke that I'm just not going to make. But I appreciate you setting me up for it.
Wow. That was clever, honest. She's making the day better with comedy. But also, she did do that one lawsuit that made a lot of sense to me, which is against the ticket company. Goodness. It's annoying, though, that they got so middle manager that nobody noticed that it costs $1,000 extra for her tickets. Like, I feel like literally all of her fans have been telling her that for years.
You know what makes me laugh? Kurt Cobain, in an interview, was exceptionally ticked off that Madonna tickets cost over $25.
Yeah, it was a funny conversation between the three of them. Like, they're like, all of a sudden they're like kind of working out how much money they make, and they don't like even like really know, and they're like, it was cute.
Oh yeah.
They're like, we're not rich. Then they're kind of like, yeah, I guess we do make pretty good money, but they're but it was nothing compared to what Madonna was saying. They were like, that's disgusting.
Yeah, they were like, that's too much. Right?
No, that's disgusting. Yeah.
Well, did you ever hear the story about David Grohl when he finally went to go visit his money manager with his mother?
No.
Have you heard this story?
All right, we've gone way too much background noise. Sorry, folks, didn't mean to let the background go. We're gonna mute now. We'll see you on the other side in just over 6 minutes. Holy crap, do we have a lot of crap to crap on about. Join us as we crap on about the crap factory that is Disney Lucasfilm and that they're now being sued by Gina Corano. And of course, we're gonna crap on Monarch, Masters of the Air, and Star Trek DS9. All this coming up right now on The Writer Brothers. Speaking of crap, how was that intro? Exactly. I gotta work on it still. Welcome to your Tuesday night home for Monarch, Star Trek, and Masters of the Air. But more importantly, we have got some pop culture news. Shout out, of course, to Nemesis of Eden and Disney Sheepherder saying, lurking, but I always have time to smash the like button. Well, thank you for smashing the like button and for hanging out. We do appreciate it. But we do have to wait for Mr. Cameron to get into his TWB outfit for the night, and so our pop culture segment will be pushed back probably towards the end. So we're gonna go ahead and start with the introductions. I'm Peter York, your host, joined by Mr. Corano, Witch in Residence, off to my side over there. And then also off to another side, Mr. Skoglioten. And then nobody cares, but I'm going to introduce him anyway, Mr. Pollo Zapatos. Oh, that's cute. I don't. So. We of course, have baited all of you Palworld fans in using the hashtag. And of course, we're here to talk about why you need to get a life, that this game is taking away from you the best moments of your existence, and that it is really sad to get this controversial over pixels. No, I'm just kidding. I game all the time and stream game all the time. I also do have a balanced, diet of camping every summer. And, 10 out of 10 would recommend. It's fun to go out in the middle of nowhere. It's also fun to stay inside and play video games. But, John, you brought up something in particular, and why is it that you wanted to do Palworld again for the video game news? Oh, right. Also, not a single one of you has been heard until just now. So we need to start the show over. So I'm Peter York. That's Corione.
Yeah.
Skogly.
Cheers, everybody.
One show closer to that perfect game. One show closer to that perfect game.
So I'm a huge ARK fan. When I found ARK, I was stationed in North Carolina, and I literally wanted to try and finally save some money before I got out. So I devoted myself to playing most weekends all video games, and man, did ARK help. It's a time suck running to the iron ore and then running it back to the smelter and then running back. And that's what Palworld is. But then Palworld was like, dinosaurs are cool, but like once. Let's do Pokemon. And nailed it. And a lot
Pokemonosaurs. Pokemonosaurs. That's what they probably call them.
Well, dude, honestly, it's closer to Pokemon Go in the overall experience, because like not only is it more about your character than it is about collecting the pals. Not only is it more about your base than it is about one or two specific pals that are awesome. And then, like, not only is it all of these things combined, but then at the same time, there's some kind of adventure going on. Like, there's all these actual fighting contingent factions that will just raid your base for no reason. So, like, every part about video games that they always say that when it comes to what's going to make you want to play, what's going to make you not want to play, like the majority of the rules are guidelines, because this game not only copy and paste 5 different games together and tries to make it into one game, but then it also was written by next to nobody. Like, this wasn't written by GamesMill. This wasn't written by all of these millions of wasteful casino games that are being just spam built. Instead, this was built by somebody who was like, I bet you if I put these 5 together, it would work like a song mashup. And it did. And it outsold Pokemon. Like, in its first weekend as a beta preview, it outsold Pokemon. At every single Pokemon that's ever released, Palworld outsold their initial weekend as well. Like, not combined, but individually. If you compare and contrast, Palworld won, and Xbox didn't help until now. Like, there was this article and there was another article that I got from GameRanks about this, but like, the person or persons that developed it and are developing it initially were like 5 or 10 people, and we're the game testers. And they, rather than most games where it's like, give us feedback, no, they literally have a bug report forum at the bottom of the start menu in the settings. Like, they're so open to crowdsourcing constructive criticism and going, we built what we want to build, let us know how to fix it better, but we're not changing it for you. And it's awesome. I love it because they're actually like adapting and growing. And like a lot of things you were saying, Corey, on like I watched a few Facebook shorts on it, and people were legitimately like blown away by how much they updated between 1.1 and 1.3.
So what was it though? Like I think we hammered this and we talked about a lot of these points too in the first the last week, and so it seems that the numbers haven't stopped growing is what I'm hearing. But what was it specifically that you think, why do you think Palworld has been just so exploding out of nowhere successful, even though it's still in early access?
So, to me, I wrote it in our Discord, and I think this is the best way to put it, but it's an unprecedented market disruption, proving that the rules are guidelines, and independent creators actually have more of a chance than they've been led to believe. And so, like, to me, the idea is that, and it's something I'm learning more and more about every industry I study, whether it's film or games or TV or any of it, there are the rules. And if you go to school, go to film school, and you actually are a good actor, the rules will help you. You can just ride that train, and it's a literal ladder to the top. See all of the artists that done it. But there are a ton of market disruptors, and there always have been. They're called innovators. And in the case of video games, until Unreal 5, and even Unity started it, but Unreal 5 came to just punch everybody out. Like, they're better than even Houdini in a lot of instances. And Houdini's the industry $2,000 a month subscription program that they used to make.
Gotta hold that thought real quick. Stephanie Janizek has popped in with, hey guys. Hey Stephanie, thank you for stopping by. We appreciate you saying hey and listening to what we have to say. Continue, John.
But on top of all of it, the way they did this is they released a preview on Game Pass, and then on Steam, they sold a $20 game. They said, our game isn't worth more than $20. Also, it's kind of worth free, and nobody can say no. Nobody can be like, no, this is actually only worth $5. Like, not a single person can complain about this game because, like, even when there were initially quite a few crashes, like, one of the craziest things, Arc has like a ton of settings you can set to generate your own world, and Palworld is like, we're going to delete half of those. And so they still have a ton, right? But on some of them, they wrote in parentheses on the setting that you can adjust, this will break the game. Arc doesn't do that. And that's how devoted they are to letting you know it's not ready, but also it's kind of ready. And so that's why they are the rule. To me, they are the standard. Like, this is a complete run off of Baldur's Gate, where Baldur's Gate wrote and completed and delivered a perfect gold game, which is what you release and actually sell to the public at $60. Baldur's Gate did that with an independent studio. And then Palworld comes in and goes, now here's what a beta should look like. Yeah. And if you think back throughout the last 5-10 years, the amount of AAA studios that have sold gold that is worse than Palworld's beta. Like,
It's like the
that's what I
industry
mean by they set
standard
the
nowadays.
standard. It's all about a vision. It's not about the gloating and the grandstanding. The majority of video games and movies spend so many wasted dollars on ads and marketing teams and marketing strategists. Palworld's proof that if you make the thing you like, you got a pretty good idea. That's why you like it. Like, nobody's a freaking pauper living in the farmland, barely coherent enough to make a thought. No, most people know exactly what they like. They just don't know how to sell it just yet. And that's kind of the beauty of Steam and and Game Pass and those mediums that are like, no, sell your shit.
Yeah.
Well,
whatever
take a look at
sell it. Let's see what happens.
Take a look at the other two games I can really point to off the top of my head that did the the buy it in the beta, and when it's gold you'll have something quality here, and that's Minecraft, which did a fantastic job of that, and Subnautica, which also did a absolutely fantastic job.
Wasn't Among Us independent as hell as well, and just went on
absolutely
there? That was just some like one dude made that, didn't he?
Yeah. But and this is the point. You can do this type of game well, the early access design, but you have to actually, legitimately do it, right? Like, you can't just be like, oh yeah, we're going to do early access, but it's never actually going to leave early access because we can get away with a lot more in early access. No.
Project Zomboid is amazing, but it's been in early access for 10 years.
Right.
And I mean, look at the other one. Was it Star Resistance or Star Citizen? Like, that's been in early access for what, 1,000 years?
Just about.
Literally buying houses worth of DLC, and it's still not a full game.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, if you actually take a look, the Kickstarter for Star Citizen initially was posted on cave walls in France, but now.
Yeah.
Dude, it's part of how we solved hieroglyphics. Like, the amount of things that Star Citizen has, but even then, they've delivered. To everybody that's invested in Star Citizen, they keep investing, or they wouldn't believe in it. Like, the thing about Star Citizen is they shot for the moon and then decided they were going to try and actually digitally create the moon. That's a very hard task. But Palworld's the opposite. So, like, there's your mediums independent developers. Like, if you can get some people together to write a cohesive thing, especially the devs. Like, I know a lot of devs that just want to code anything. Like, they just want a mission because they love coding. And so if you can get those guys in a room, name the Kickstarter, start the Kickstarter, and start doing your ads as these betas. Like, this is Palworld's ads. They're literally free marketing from me, from everyone that loves it, from everyone that's mad at it. Like, even Nintendo stood down. Like, Nintendo was like, no, this is as close to the line as you can legally get, and they haven't said anything. They literally only sent one cease and desist to somebody who actually made legitimate Pokemon mods with all of their names. And that's it. That's, again, Nintendo setting the standard. That's how corporate should act. Let your little brother play. I mean,
but only let him play with the Mad Catz controller. Let's be clear.
All right. I've got a poll up. If anybody has input to put in for Palworld, if you think Palworld is a good game or not, please vote. We do, of course, make it a point to have 3 categories in all of our polls. This is so that they are fair, so they don't have a skew, 2-party system choice. So we'd like to have 3 options at a minimum. And so, yes, please, if you can participate in the poll there. I have not embarked on the Palworld frontier yet. I intend to.
Make sure to pack a lunch.
When I get around to, I mean, it sounds like, it basically sounds like Valheim, but with Pokemans and guns and
It's all of those games because they are like there's the Dark Souls family, there's the roguelike family, and now there's the Ark family. And it's that survival, build your own world, literally.
Why do I feel like you're going to try to find the biggest flying Pokemon and turn it into a C-130 gunship?
Oh, absolutely.
I've already found a couple candidates.
Yeah. No, I don't need to build actual bombers. They'll just fly around with guns strapped to their backs. I mean, that was see that's what I needed. That's what I needed in Avatar. Like in James Cameron's Avatar thing. You know, what really I just didn't like how black and white the factions were. I felt like there needed to be more dissent from the military. Like the Na'vi should have had like 50 cows, you know, strapped to the backs of their creatures on top of using the bow and arrows, and there should have been a more like gray area struggle. And that's why that movie sucked. It's because it just tried to be too much like Star Wars, you know, humans with machines bad, and natives with cute cat eyes good. And
I would only disagree because the way that he wrote it was that like take everything America is good at so far. Imagine if we went to another planet and actually like spent all of our war machine on that war machine and then ran into Native Americans. Like, it's gonna be that egregious.
I'm not saying it's not going to be egregious and it's not going to have its extremist factions on both sides. I'm just saying that realistically there would have been a bit more of like a divided struggle between even like first of all, some of the natives...
Like, there wasn't enough salesmen. I feel like there would have been way more market, and it would have been like half of the Na'vi were already on board and had already given up.
If you wanted to do it,
like, not just market, but like missionaries of all faiths, of all kinds. Like, let's bring human to them. Like, what is a human? I'm going to sell you on it. Like, I don't think the military could ever capitalize that much. You're right.
Well, here's what I'm going to say about Avatar, and I think this is something that often gets missed in the discussions of those movies. At the end of the day, you and I and every dude like us on the internet can voice their opinion. But the truth of the matter is, I've got a daughter who absolutely watches those movies like
I thought Way of the Water
every
was already, steps in the right direction and showing a more nuanced idea on that. Like, I felt that movie should have been like where was this movie in the first movie? That's what I felt.
I get where you're coming from, but you see what my point is. Like,
yes,
we can say all we want about whether it being good or not, but at the end of the day, it's getting the results.
But at the end of the day, exactly, just like Palworld's getting the results. Cameron doesn't necessarily play by anybody's rules, but James Cameron's rules.
Well, that's the funny thing is James Cameron already pitched this to the audience. Isn't it a 3-part or a 5-part?
It's going to be a 5.
Right, 5-part series. So he's literally telling everyone, here's the exposition, and it's going to play. Like, honestly, I'm just waiting for the last episode, and then I'm going to watch the other 4.
Yeah. But anyway, I
can guarantee you
like
exactly. I know what the other 3 parts are going to be. Too.
Yeah, like I said, and that's what I want to see in the third one. Is I want to see some 50 cows mounted on the creatures this time.
Like 50.
Yeah, exactly. I want to see the Na'vi version of the Flying Fortress.
You want to see a Na'vi technical is what you want to see.
We are, of course, waiting for Cameron to finish up in makeup or to get ready for the show. Of course, I'm just kidding. Cameron brings his natural.
I want to see
show like everyone else here.
I want to see a Na'vi mixed with AI, like Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Combination towards the end.
So
where they are just like half machine, that'd be crazy.
While we are waiting to get to our controversial Gina Corano news, Stephanie says, "Don't get me started on Native American history because it is a very gray area." Yes, I agree. They weren't the peaceful, loving people that they are like. Yeah, depends on the tribe, but we will bring that back on Friday.
But that's just people in general. Yeah. If you look at the history of humans, we all suck.
It's kind of really what it is. At the end of the day, it's really a give and take throughout, the thousands of years of known history.
I'm doing my best to be the best that I can, but like the bar's not very high.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, straight up, like, you guys want, like, a good view of Native American history. Look up, and I kid you not, the Beaver Wars. And you will get a much more nuanced view on
There's a really, really
Yeah.
good book called Empire of the Summer Moon by S.C. Gwynn, and it talks about the Quanah Parker and the last stand of the Comanches and everything. And it's a really, really sympathetic and honest look at like the problems that were going on and like the cultural issues that were happening on both sides, and like really explained. It was really eye-opening because I was just baffled by what all went down, and that was really enlightening book. Empire of the Summer Moon, very, very, very good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Robert De Niro movie, isn't there? Just came out based on that book.
No, that's Killers of the Flower Moon.
That's supposed to be quite good as well.
Stephanie knows what you're talking about. Story. So she has studied up on the history. Yeah. But anyway, we'll go back to the Comanches probably with the Prey sequel if it ever happens. But anyway, if you like giant lizards stomping around and destroying stuff, then finally Monarch is the show for you. It only took 6 episodes, but you know, our boy, our 2014 Zilla, which in my opinion is the second best looking Zilla out there, -1 being the new king now. But I gotta say, right, so Corano, we have a new poster for this that you wanted to present, and yeah, six episodes it took to find our.
I mean, look, Hiroshi just shows up long enough to be like, "Good try,
Get out of here!"
Well, no, like, "Good try, Gumshoes. See you next episode," and then he's off again. I mean, it's a. And they go around the world looking for the guy. This whole TV series is Carmen Sandiego. Change my mind.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's that song that's been going memeing around. I'm all alone. I'm so afraid. Where is my dad?
Right?
Yeah. Stephanie Janicek says the book is Quanah is the name of the book, Blue-Eyed Comanche.
It's about Quanah Parker.
Okay.
It's a great
Taylor Sheridan.
Story.
Taylor Sheridan is apparently doing the book as a TV show, so I think that we may have to put that on our reading list and do a comparison later because, well, we do shamelessly love the Sheridan-verse here on the Writer Brothers. I have yet to be disappointed with a Sheridan-verse product.
Did you guys see him on Joe Rogan?
No, did you?
Yeah, his mind is so fun. Oh my gosh. Apparently, he is writing a lot of these as like his version. And he's like completely honest about it. He's like, this is just how I think things went down. And he's not like, he's doing research and stuff, but he's not doing the whole bias thing. Like, this is what I learned in high school. This is how I remember it. No, he's just like, pretty sure if it was real people with these equipment, this is what they would have said. This is how they would have done it. And then from there, he like changes the speech to match the actual language of the land, if it's appropriate, but like very much more like, I don't know, he's a lot freer than I imagined. He's not like the way he writes, it looks very structured and borderline like stuck in books all day. But when I listen to him on JRE, he sounds like he could be any one of us at any job. It's a pretty cool dude.
So Monarch, man. Look, every one of my arguments has stood up on this series. Every single one, guys. They have spent an inordinate amount of time looking for a dude who seems to not want to be found and running from every big creature that could possibly exist. And frankly, I'm getting a little tired of it. Like, dude, give me a Jaeger project at this point. Like, I need a Jaeger project, right? I need to have somebody at Monarch go, you know what? Screw this. Let's just build monsters to fight monsters. Or, you know, let's figure out where the hell these things are coming from and drop all the nukes into it. Because this is getting a little ridiculous.
Corion is now ready for the Pacific Rim portion of this show.
Right.
But
I'm thinking the show's getting a lot better personally, but man,
yeah.
the last like 15 minutes of the last episode.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest. This is definitely not a like.
But I'm enjoying it a lot more.
It's probably one of those that if you do binge all the episodes, you probably should do that. Me personally, I don't like to do that, but that's just me. But I can definitely see, like, this is not, this is not like something like Yellowstone or Tulsa King or even Masters of the Air or For All Mankind. Like, I'm not going to recommend this to just the average viewer, to be perfectly honest. This is super. You're like, if you're a huge fan of Godzilla and you're into like the lore of this universe, yes, get into it. If you kind of want to get into the lore,
really cool.
This is fine. If you're just a casual viewer,
what lore of the Godzilla universe? There's no lore. There's just Godzilla beating on like fake buildings.
It's the 2014. This is the 2014 Zilla cinematic universe. Okay.
It is lore. There's so much Godzilla lore, especially if you've watched like the animated Godzilla series.
This is all the Monarch lore. This is the lore of the show's namesake.
Yeah. Right, and that to me, that's what I've been trying to say. Like, this isn't Godzilla. This isn't like Foundation. I think is the comparative example as far as Apple goes, because like,
oh, that's right. That's the one Apple showed.
We're gonna do a series, I mean, Foundation is a spectacular visual phenomenon, which is what Godzilla is. But Monarch is more supposed to be like Parker said. It's very more along the lines of Andor for Godzilla. And like Corey, and all of your points are absolutely right. The issue is like, I think it's similar to Avatar, and then that they went 1 year, like one movie too early, because if they had done everything since 2014, or I would even say the second movie, King of Monsters, because like King of Monsters had way more monsters and Monarch was there, but I think they're trying to do so much to set up King of Monsters that like that's where they choke themselves out. Is like, this is the most boring phase. Like, this is 9/11 and then Afghanistan. There's 20 years of like, it shouldn't have happened that way.
My ship doesn't have a universal translator either, so I'm like,
all I'm going to say is this.
Oh yeah, all the Japanese. I did not understand a word. I did not have subs.
Well,
I didn't get any subs. I'm like, all.
Yeah.
But I am going to say this, John. After we finish Monarch, okay, I challenge you to watch Pacific Rim Black on Netflix and tell me which is the superior. Yeah, tell me which is the superior series.
Have you seen Godzilla on Netflix? The 1, 2, and 3.
Not as good.
Oh man, not as good in terms of like depth. Like Black Rim or Pacific Rim Black is so, it has so much room to grow. Like, it is like another Avatar, the Last Airbender series. But like,
yes.
I don't know, I see that for this one too. Like, this is like a live action Godzilla, and like, yeah, it's a slow burn, but like I said,
which is fine. But that's why I'm saying like unless you're wanting to like get into the 20, if you want more depth to the 2014 Zilla, then this is your movie. And well, it just so happens that I like the 2014 Godzilla movie. It's one of my favorite Godzilla movies. This is from somebody who's not typically into like the Godzilla, monster movie type of, that's just not usually my thing. But I gotta, looking at this objectively, the writing's there, the characters are there. Yeah, it's not super complicated. It does get popcorn flicky.
Hold on. Is the writing there? Because I have concerns about the writing.
Please
I
say
think I legit do.
It feels
this is why we're here. No, Corion, I need to hear what are your concerns with the writing? That's title of the show. Let's get to that, because this is the first time hearing of it.
Okay, so part of that, in the last 2 episodes, this really kind of came to a head for me. Because I was sitting there for the previous, 4 episodes, going, why does this chick absolutely hate on every man she sees? And suddenly I find out that she's a lesbian that cheats on her girlfriend, and I'm like, oh, that's why. Now it makes sense, right? And I'm like, they put her. This show has so many characters that feel like they're there because they're trying to show off their diversity instead of just writing good characters. We could have had a situation here where the brother and sister, if they had taken an episode off of monster hunting and spent the entire time getting to know each other and actually developed a mutual respect for each other, I would not have these issues. But he saved their life. He's managed to solve several problems they've run into. He's been taking care of them and trying to keep them safe this whole damn time. And he's constantly ragged on. And this is the thing that drives me crazy about this kind of, like, the bad diversity writing, is that they insist on keeping character flaws that don't belong after a certain point.
So here's where I would disagree. Time. It is like cohesively, it's been every episode is one more day. And so it went from, oh shit, I have a brother, to, oh no, I'm on like a life-threatening mission. Like, if anything, the complete lack of cohesion actually makes sense because only operators can band that fast. Look at Shaw. He adapts exactly to the proficiency of his team with ease and grace. Everybody else is a chaotic mess running from or to something. And that's what we're getting, is that chaos. And I think your points are actually 100% valid, but I think that what they did is, like, these two are, it's literally two main characters in a video game. You can either be the brother or you can be the sister. And they are the audience experiencing the world of Monarch. We have a little bit of a tie. We have a history of it in our heads from what we've heard in stories. Now here's how it really operates. And it's
but the problem
like
was,
any other government bureaucracy.
The problem for your video game analogy is this. If I was playing as the sister, I would have uninstalled this game and gone, you know what? Screw this. This person is just so unlikable that I can't do it.
The best part is she actually has an arc.
But her arc so far has been absolutely crap. Like,
no, I
can't stand this
is the way I would
character.
put it.
They're only characters so far that I've met that I actually don't despise, surprisingly, is the French mercenary working for Monarch, because she's more or less stayed true to her identity the entire time. She wants these monsters to go down, and she doesn't care how it gets done. She just wants them gone. And I respect that attitude, right? I mean, you know, she's treating them like the colossal cockroaches they are. And I dig it. But everyone else has been flip-flopping and screwing around and not showing the respect to other people's growth or shrinkage as it's happened. Everybody else is in their own little worlds and not growing or contracting based on the other character's actions. It's like if each of these characters was written in a complete vacuum, and it doesn't work.
I would almost agree. Like I said, mostly because it does end with a very, like, let's finally throw her in the abyss. And the way she has
you
to
know what?
overcome
If
it
they're
and
gonna
grow
throw
is
her,
actually...
listen, if they're throwing her into an endless void, I'm good with that.
Well, no, so
I'm not good with her coming back, but I'm good with her being tossed into a void.
It was like when Michael got eaten by the space monster on Discovery. He was like, gosh! It just spits up. You're like, oh!
But Corey, a lot of your points against her are the same ones that she has against everyone else. Like, she's not growing fast enough for you to appreciate her.
I'm just really frustrated.
It's not even that she's
it.
growing
She
fast
stomps
enough.
Off
it's
at the
that
end. It's like, oh.
It's not that she's not growing fast enough. Here's the issue. It's that her growth or shrinkage is not related to the other character's growth or shrinkage.
Yeah.
Consider this right now, okay? We've had scenes where we've gotten confirmed that, look, she's a school teacher. She's obviously nurturing. We saw that in Alaska. We have a situation in Africa where we have one of the characters admitting to a huge screw up. But we've also know that these three characters have been through absolutely everything together. And somebody admitting like, look, I really screwed up here. You would think that the person that got her through a pretty severe PTSD moment, that she got through some pretty severe hypothermia moments, there'd be at least a discussion.
No.
But instead, she goes full whiny crybaby and throws a
Stomps
temper tantrum
off
and
into the
walks off.
desert, and that's the end of the episode. You're like, oh, for fuck's sakes.
Oh man,
I'm sitting there going,
like,
I hope she does continue off stomping off into the desert.
Oh man, like I
Yeah,
forgot
I'm
which
just sitting here
exactly
listening to this.
episode we ended on.
I'm just sitting here listening to this, remembering all the times that that I felt the same way about Ahsoka Tano, and boy, was I ever wrong.
Exactly,
so
and that's what I mean. I am looking at this with 2020. I've seen the whole thing. I know where it goes, and I know that like all of your points are 100% valid. I think one of the key issues is that like if you think about it, throughout the last 6 episodes, her character and those 3 as a whole have made up 1/3. So like, and not even in every episode do they make up 1/3 of each episode. And that's the issue with running multiple timelines, is like there's a lot of chaos.
And I
Like,
will,
where are we?
and I will say for the record that if suddenly in the last couple of episodes this gets fixed, I will totally say, hey, I'm super glad it did, because I want it to be better. I really want this to not suck.
The fire-eating Titan was really cool.
The mole thing, I don't know, man. Ice mole.
Eating the fire and blowing out cold. I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I liked it.
I don't know. I'm not finding the Titans engaging yet, but okay.
No. We'll see, and we'll get to it. All right, we are still patiently awaiting the arrival of Mr. Kamran Pasha, because we've got all kinds of Gina Corano Lucasfilm news to get into, but we're going to shift back real quick to our video game news, because Mr. the Nerdporeal Lifeform has shown up and says, I hear Palworld is Breath of the World, but with Pokemon and guns. And we will, of course, go ahead and, since we are back here, end our poll. And it looks like we have, the winner is 55%. What in the is a Palworld?
Okay.
Pal.
And yeah, Nerdporeal, you forgot the sweatshops. Sweatshops are also a key ingredient in this.
I completely
now,
agree.
Really, realistically, it's factory
44%,
manufactured.
44% do like the game, and there were no votes. So I would say that's a 100% yes.
Good enough.
Good enough. Close enough.
Well, it's not just Breath of the Wild, but with Pokemon and guns. It's more Ark with Breath of the Wild graphics and Pokemon instead of dinosaurs. And new mechanics for actually using the dinosaurs to your benefit. Because in Ark, one of the biggest issues is like the amount of guides you have to use to figure out which dinosaur produces which thing for which ingredient for which item you want to manufacture for one-time use.
Okay. So, all right, quickly, let's go ahead and start our first DS9 discussion, because yeah, we have word Kamran is entering the building. He will be here shortly, but once he's here and once we get here, we will bring him on the show and we will talk about our pop culture news. But first, let's get one of our Star Treks from the week out of the way. This week's episode, we had the Sons of Moog, and we had Bar Association. John, I'm pretty sure you thoroughly enjoyed Bar Association. And then, of course, but the Sons of Moog was a pretty interesting, more building of the Klingon lore, and just some fascinating stuff with cloaking minds and fun stuff like that. Overall, John, what'd you think of the episode?
Dude, Son of Moog bored the hell out of me. I can't stand family drama. Like, I get it, and I get the whole, like, desire to represent honor.
So this is on your skip on the next rewatch. Got it.
I don't think there's gonna be a next rewatch.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a bummer.
I tried. This show slogged sometimes. Bar Association was pretty fun, but, like, the Sons of Mog, one of my biggest issues with like trying to do honor is that you actually have to show tests of honor before a big test of honor, or like a big like Kota Bushido level seppuku style honor killing, and that's where they just blew right past that, which I don't like. I don't like going right to seppuku like everybody understands that, especially when you're talking to a modern audience, and that's what bothered me about this one. Also, the end. Deleting your brother's memory, like, it's such a weak thing to do. It's like, no, be a man, tough it out. I thought you were honor. Like, I thought honor was paramount.
So, I'll be honest with you, I usually skip this episode in rewatches. And I do, not necessarily because I don't understand Kern's circumstances, because for the record, John, you find out a lot of this character's arc in Star Trek Next Gen. The long and short of it is he was the brother, so there were two brothers in the House of Moog. One of them got picked up by the Federation. The other one didn't actually go to Khitomer, where the massacre happened. He stayed home with his cousins. So he was actually the brother that was raised inside the family.
Mm-hmm.
But when it became known that, it was believed that Moog was the traitor, they hid his family line. And then he came back out when Worf's kind of star rose and he retained his honor again. And seeing him now kind of have to go back into the shadows like this is like this crazy revolving door of this guy's honor. So I can understand him wanting to be like, no, you know what, screw it, I just want out. Right? I want to terminate my subscription to life. And
not just terminate this. That's what I mean, though. That's why doing honor like this is so wrong, because the honorable thing is to eat the loss, swallow it, take it. Your brother, who you didn't come out of the shadows until he rose to glory, so you're already riding his coattails. So how about you ride them into the abyss too? But instead, he did the same thing that bar owner does in bar association. Quark.
Yeah.
Literally, they beat me so that you would feel bad. And he's like, no, well, we're not brothers, remember? I'm an employee and you're my employer. I don't care if you die. You'll get replaced and I'll do this to the next guy till he meets my demands. Which is honor. Like, stand for something. And that's my issue with the brother, is he's running around committing seppuku to earn his honor back, but he doesn't have any honor to begin with. So what is he earning back? Like, even in that episode of Next Generation, he's riding Worf's coattails.
Oh, because I don't argue that.
Well, it's not just about like the honor. Like he doesn't get to go to heaven. Right?
Well,
there's that too, right?
So John, I'm kind of surprised that you said
you die at 1,000 and commit seppuku. You don't die early as you can because you're depressed now because your status is dwindling. No, you let it dwindle to zero. You live on in shame because that's the honorable way to live. Because according to your culture, that's what they said, is live with the shame to show others why they're ashamed, like why they shouldn't follow in your footsteps. And instead he's like, no, I'm 28 and sad. Like, that's why I didn't like the honor. Is like this wasn't an episode about honor. It's an episode about a child learning that honor is all spiritual and has nothing to do with other people.
I'm also going to
honorably or lose your memory about it.
It's like it's an interesting take on it being like a dishonorable attempt to take your honor back, right?
I am going to also point this out too. This is absolutely a major character writing fail for Dax.
I was shocked that she did that. I was like,
right, because when you think about it, right, we had a previous episode where even though it wasn't her honor on the line, even though everybody said no, look, you don't have to do this, you are still a wonderful, being as far as we are concerned, she went and did it anyway because her personal feelings are what mattered most, right? her personal code played ball, and yet she decided to interfere in the personal codes
and
of
the
these two
crazy and the
Klingons.
crazy Klingon shit she's pulled in the past. Like, I'm just shocked that she wouldn't just hold their
Guys,
rituals
your
in the
answer's
highest esteem.
established right in the first scene of the episode.
Which was all part of the character flaw.
When
Yeah.
people are infatuated, they start to behave out of character.
Yeah.
And so, yes,
Okay,
she
but
prioritized
people,
her caring
she's
of Worf over
1,000
the
people.
consequences and acted according as somebody would, thinking that they know better for somebody because, well, they're infatuated with them.
But I don't know. She's
I don't know.
1,000 years old. That's
300.
the issue. Is like
300 years old. But you know what?
that's
That doesn't change. That should also, make sense to you because, how old is the human race?
Well, she's still.
Well, here's the
like,
thing, John. The human race is over 300 years old, yet we still have no idea how human
No, the
feelings and stuff
human
totally
race-
works either.
She's
No,
still
but
a
we
very
do.
much a
that's
27
the
year
wild
old
part
girl.
is we
so.
do. We've written it down. That's the
It's a
code back to honor.
symbiosis. Yeah,
She's
it's a
very much
300. It's a 300-year-old.
27-year-old
Exactly.
girl.
It's a 300-year-old, 27-year-old girl. Exactly. That's exactly it,
Yeah.
Scogli.
Right,
Oh, she's
but-
Rambo Barbie. Let's be clear, right? Like,
Okay, when you're messing with cultures, especially when your entire society
All right.
has a rule, number one, about don't mess with cultures,
Yeah.
and then you also are 300 years old.
With
like,
deep
you
ties.
know
to
even
Real
the
quick though, real
infatuation
quick.
drug
Let's
kicks in.
bid good evening to Stephanie. She's hanging out. Stayed as long as I could. Got to get to sleep. Totally understand. We'll see you when we see you. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed the discussion.
She's like blood brothers with Klingons.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. Like, it's not. It would make sense if it was any human, any other non-existentially long-living race, but for Dax to be like completely high school girlfriend, that's what, like, to me, that's where what Corion's point, like, it was a bad writing. Like, they degraded her in so many senses to make this make sense.
like to be perfectly honest, for her to be in character, what should have happened is when she realized what incense was being used and what it was for and everything, she should have like showed up 20 minutes later and gone, okay, so do you need help carrying him out to the airlock? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
pretty much, yeah. I
He
agree.
wasn't thinking. God, you guys
But
don't
that's what I'm saying, is
understand
she's
the.
the one character that thinks through everything every other time.
And,
in this
like,
one
I get it
episode,
that she's
all
like-
emotional.
and I do get that part of her character is being 300 years old and yet still leads with her heart. Like, I do get that. But at the same time, we see her be incredibly rational at times too, right? So
Yeah, so she doesn't get it right all the time. Sometimes
No,
she
in this
behaves out of
episode, I
character.
would say-
Sometimes they make mistakes. Sometimes,
Honestly-
situations influence us to do things we wouldn't normally do. It's normal.
Right, but that's like hesitation, especially in the like elder sense. Like, the wise person slows down; they don't rush. And especially when culture is online, especially when family ties are
That's
on
not
the line.
always. I'm sorry. Captain Kirk says, yeah, screw you on that notion. They don't
No,
always
I'm
slow down.
more in terms of like, it's not every time, but that's what she's presented so far. In every other episode, she has been older and wiser and more mature than anyone else, while also being a bubbly
And
27-year-old.
still fallible.
And that's been her pitch.
And therefore still
That's-
fallible.
But my big thing is, in this episode, the Mary Sue is honor. Everybody else breaks backwards
No.
to make honor somehow actually at stake.
Well,
Rather
it's-
than
it's-
like
yes,
Worf
but-
being
but
the
what
older brother
happens?
and being like,
What happens?
up.
Do they kill Kern, though?
no,
actually,
yes,
yes,
in every
Sort
sense
of.
the word, yes, they deleted everything about him except for his basic instincts. That's
although
killing
I will
your
say,
brother.
though, the most honorable character in this episode,
So-
in my opinion, was Odo.
So, yeah, I agree. But let me make sure I understand this, John. You disagree with the episode's premise, and you disagree with the outcome. Okay, and you managed to articulate your disagreement quite well, I want to add. You've done pretty well. A little sluggish to start tonight's episode, but that when you first said that I'm bored with DS9 and I'm not gonna watch it, and then you go on a rant about this episode that you were bored with.
No, that's actually
You
me targeting
obviously
just the
caught
general
something
idea.
out of the show and the episode. So
That's more of my frustration with people attempting to write honor, because for me, that's one of the things that's been dead in writing.
John, that's
for
the whole
so
point
long.
of this show. That
Oh, I know.
Thanks
But what I got out of this show is more stuff to complain about, and that's actually a first. Like
Which
the
is
reason I'm
good.
bored.
Good, I'm glad.
The more reason I'm bored is the repetition. Like the characters are who they are, and aside from a few episodes here and there, we don't really get many like character changes, and their progression makes sense to me. I can see the through line for the next few seasons on how they age out. But like all I'm waiting for now is like the big twist, and I'm also like not a huge fan of twists. I like good thick writing. That's why I love Monarch, is like there's actually a lot of like character drama going on in real time while also talking about all these other fun exciting times in fast forward.
Well,
And that-
John, I can promise you that a not twist, but a fantastic change to the tone of the series is absolutely coming.
I love that. I'm excited. I want to hear that. It is definitely a pacing issue.
Oh, there is,
Like
yeah.
if this show was a song, the first 4 seasons so far have been the slowest thing ever, and I fell asleep 2 days ago.
That's the big thing with DS9. It's like everybody's like, oh yeah, season 3. Some people are like, oh no, so just start in season 4. But then other people are like, wow, it's pretty slow at times.
I have
but
to disagree,
it's
guys.
so important. No, it's really important to see the first 3 seasons to actually like get the full.
And honestly,
weight of what happens in the last half of the series.
And I've thoroughly enjoyed dissecting it, 2 episodes to 4 episodes at a time. Like, this has been a fantastic, this is what I've always wanted to do. And I look forward to doing it again when we rewatch DS9 next year. Anyway, yeah. No, we will definitely do a DS9 rewatch at some point, but that's probably going to be its own entire show, optional, and that'll probably be in like 10 years or something. I don't know. But John, that was actually I think you got more out of this episode than you realized. I think you did. This episode is an excellent example of what Star Trek is supposed to be good at, and that's challenging your perspectives and your ideas. And you disagree with the culture and customs of the Klingon culture. You don't think that you don't agree with the resolution of the episode.
No,
Awesome.
My disagreement was their display of honor. Klingons being honor bound is fine. There's a lot of cultures that are honor bound. And a lot of them define honor differently. See the Vikings, see the samurai, see knights, see all of it. Like, different people define honor different ways. My issue is the modern definition of honor is the most watered down, let's make it make sense in 40 minutes, when in reality, honor is 1000% a 1,000-year journey. Like, every challenge is a new challenge at being honorable, and that's where like the honorable hero is something we don't see very often. But like the 1 season of Firefly, like that was the captain's entire arc was honor over everything.
Yeah
And I loved that, and that's what my beef was with this episode. Klingons are Klingons, and how they resolve their issues is usually watered down. Like almost everything is watered down, but that's because real life is gross.
Yeah.
Mike
loves
national television.
Mike Loves Cats says DS9 is a Vegas buffet in 1997. Sumptuous. And in more ways than one. All right, so we are still waiting. Cameron's probably just finally finalizing his notes for the evening and getting ready to come on and explain all the craziness that is Lucasfilm. So we of course will have our pop culture news segment very, very shortly, but we are going to finish. So our second episode of DS9 this week was an often talked about one of controversy, as it's still a relevant topic today, now more than ever, and that is bar association. So John, what did you think of bar association? DS9's take on the old capitalism v communism debate. Is it Friday?
Okay, so I had one big issue with O'Brien's story, and that was that he forgot that like that's where the term redneck comes from.
Yeah.
Like those coal mining strikes, they were known as rednecks because they all wore red handkerchiefs to show their support for each other. And that's why it became a pejorative, is because corporate America didn't want them rednecks fighting for literal basic rights. Like the general store being abolished. See Amazon doing it again. See all of these oligopolies in Parker's episode on Friday discussing it. Like,
Yep.
Yeah,
That was
corporate
my hatred of
oligopolies.
Ryan's
We'll talk about it on Friday.
gross. But on top of that, the next part was the reality of strike culture. A lot of people think it was actually a combat of wit and logic, and that the CEOs and billionaires were actually able to convince their workers that they were getting a fair wage. But the true reality is that gangsters came in and did the dirty work for them, and that's why the mafia grew as fast as it grew. Because irresponsible business owners paid for hitmen to beat up strikers, and they still do to this day. Like,
Hey, man, look, the
the
Pinkertons
amount
were
of, like-
absolutely a thing, right?
right, and that's my thing, is like, at least for once, one of the nationally broadcast stories hit the point that, like, no, it was gang shit that got rid of the strikes. It was gangsters that made this world the way that it is, and it's gangsters that are running this world. It's not nice people. It's not pious. It's not honorable. There is no honor at the top. It is all gangsters. I, me, my, F the other guy. And that's what the show showed. Because even Quark, what was his
So,
big beef?
All right.
Was like,
All right.
you have to listen or I'll die. And he was like, if you die, I inherit your
Yeah.
stuff.
We will come back to this later, maybe in the broadcast, but for now, it is time to clear the airwaves and welcome Mr. Kamran Pasha to debut our pop culture news segment tonight. Cameron, how are you this evening?
I'm well. Thank you all for your patience. I'm sorry I couldn't come in earlier, but I'm here for about half an hour. I hope that will be enough.
Yep.
But yeah, first of all, I was glad to come in while you're talking Deep Space Nine. As I was mentioning, a previous challenge I've broadcast with Heath Robinson's got his own wonderful channel, and I was talking about the fact that that my first showrunner, the first boss I ever had, was Ira Stephen Bear, who created Deep Space Nine, and to this day, he is the greatest showrunner I've ever worked with 23 years later. And he's an absolute genius writer and a mensch of a human being. So I'm glad to see you guys were talking about his show.
Yeah, I may need to exploit that connection of yours someday, but we'll talk about that in a more dignified manner, aka a DM.
There is no dignity in Hollywood, my friend. You're asking for the wrong thing. There's no such thing as dignity in Hollywood.
Well, you know what? I'm going to try anyway. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So,
Look at that, guys. My point was solidified.
Yeah. So, we have got, we've got news about what's going on, Cameron. Why don't you just go ahead and set the tone and expectation? This is why we like to invite you on, so that you can speak narrative that you prefer to have it, so I don't, either accidentally say something, misrepresent your words, We're all about
we'll talk first then.
honest quality content means, Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, straight from the source, hopefully. But yeah, so we'll talk about what we know publicly. I mean, the big news publicly that is known is that Gina Corano, who starred as Cara Dune on The Mandalorian, was very unceremoniously let go a few years ago because people, various claims about her politics or whatever, and she's been holding back for quite some time, but today she announced that she is going ahead with a lawsuit. She's hired a major Washington D.C. law firm. They've already filed a lawsuit in federal court, and they're suing Disney for a wrongful termination. And it's interesting because apparently the damages she's asking for are specifically repaid, I think, like $75,000 that they owe her. We're not talking about $75 million. We'll talk about why it's interesting that she's asking for a very small number, and also that she be recast, which I'm interpreting to mean that she's then recast as in cast again as Cara Dune. And in the Twitter announcement that she made, that she seemed to very much imply that she wanted to move forward with her life and to go back to things that she loved, which suggests she wants to go back to this role. And so that's the big news. She had announced back in August, I believe, or at least had said, because Elon Musk had put out a tweet X, I'm just going to call it Twitter, he put out a tweet that that he was willing to support anyone that had been discriminated against, who had been, lost their jobs because of their politics, because of the things they had posted or liked on Twitter. And at the time, she had responded to him to something to the effect, I was like, this is very interesting. Does that include me? That kind of thing, right? And so that was in August, and we didn't hear anything further. But then today, she announced his lawsuit, which is also timed very interestingly because tomorrow is the quarterly earnings call. So it was timed right before that. So we'll see, those earnings calls are very carefully monitored as to who gets to speak on them. But sometimes a crazy person who pretended he was going to say one thing gets on and asks something else. So we'll see if anyone actually asks about this tomorrow and how Bob Iger responds if they do. So that's what's publicly known. Because that in and of itself is earth-shattering on many levels.
Yeah.
Trades are all covering it. It's big news. It's big news. And it is worthy to being
warrior. It's a modern day warrior. She's standing up for herself. She was disrespected and blacklisted, and she's standing up in the best way possible. An actual court, not the court of public opinion, the real one, the real court.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that's what we know publicly. So that's what we can all confirm that, because that's what she herself has said. That's what news articles are saying. So now, shortly after that, maybe a couple hours later, I received information from someone who I've mentioned before here on this show, my Disney insider, who we've codenamed Sparrow, and I was kind of expecting this call to come because I was like, well, something's obviously, they probably have something to say about this, right? It's big news. I at least wanted to hear what Lucasfilm is thinking about this, but they actually gave a lot more information than I expected. When this was announced, I put on my Patreon my theory that that this is all part of a bigger plan, that maybe, and I'm not saying that Gina Carano is any way colluding with this plan. One thing the Sparrow made clear to me is that she's pursuing her own rights of her own independently. She's not scheming anything, right? She just wants her rights. So let me make that very clear here, that I'm not in any way saying Gina Carano is in any way playing any kind of game. She's straightforwardly suing to get her rights addressed. That's it, okay? However, others involved in corporate politics seem to see this as a moment of great opportunity, right? And so what Sparrow revealed to me, based on their internal conversations within Disney/Lucasfilm, is that internally, this is being perceived as a strategic, something that can be taken strategic advantage of, let's just put it that way, by Disney CEO Bob Iger, and that this falls very much into his goals to actually defeat his many adversaries. And people would say, well, how is that possible? She's suing essentially him. He's the bad guy of the story, right? And so how is that possible? So, I'm going to tell you what Sparrow said, but before I tell you that, I want to give context, because that sounds improbable. Okay. However, that's how Hollywood works. And we went through this just 2 years ago, which some people may forget. Scarlett Johansson infamously sued Disney after the release of her movie Black Widow, which she felt was fumbled. She felt that that it should have been released in a certain way with regard to streaming and all that wasn't properly handled. At least that was her lawsuit claim. And at the time, I was shocked, because Scarlett Johansson is still one of the most bankable actresses in Hollywood today, right? She's a star. She's not B-list. She's an A-list star, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And suing Disney, that's not what stars do. I mean, she had the top people at CA, one of the most powerful agencies, representing her. This is the kind of thing. If you are unhappy with the amount of money you got from Black Widow, like she had a profit participation and she was suing that the way they released it didn't maximize her profit. That was the claim.
They were supposed to give her royalties off the theater take, and then they didn't release it in theaters. And they were like, yeah, we don't have to pay you now. And she was like, what?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and we'll explain a little bit just the context of that. So that's the official narrative. Official narrative is she was upset about this, and she sued Disney, which, as someone who's been doing this for a couple of decades, I'm like, that's not how you handle this. That's certainly not how A-list actor handles this. A-list actor who's at the top of their game, who isn't blacklisted, who isn't thinking, well, I'm done with my career, right, goes and has their agent call Disney and resolve it privately, saying you should give her more money. I've had that happen, and I'm not yet A-list. I've had that happen. The project I'm currently working on, was the contract was was signed during this period when the Writers Guild forced all of us to fire our agents over a very complicated dispute. So I did not have agents at the time, and I signed a contract for this project I'm working on today, major television series that I'm developing. And when that was resolved and I was able to bring agents on, so I have these lovely agents at Gersh, very good agency. They came in about a year later and they saw this contract with this big studio and they said, "What is this crap? You agreed to this? This isn't, you're worth more than this." I said, "Yeah, but I didn't have agents and I didn't have anybody really negotiating for me, so we took what we could get," right? They're like, "Well, let's fix that." And so my agents called the head of the studio and said, "Come on, guys, this isn't right. He signed the paper, but this isn't right. You screwed him. He deserves more money than this. You know that. I know that, right?" And at the time, one of the producers of the project was like, "Cameron, why are you bothering? You've signed a contract. Those are your numbers. Swallow it," right? I said, "Well, let my agents do their job." Agents called back the next day, said, "Yeah," studio said, "Yeah, you're right. He's totally screwed. He was totally taken advantage of. We know that. I guess you guys noticed it." And then they literally gave my agent everything he asked. The numbers are now exactly what he asked for, and they're much more than they were. And my producer was like, "Well, that's what agents do." So and I'm whatever level I am in this game. Scarlett Johansson, who has the head of CAA as her agent, can call Disney and say, "Hey, give her another $20 million. That's nothing, and she deserves it." They would do it. So why was this lawsuit happening? And at the time, I theorized that this doesn't feel right. This feels like a scheme. This feels like a chess game. And I think what's going to happen here, because at the time, people, if you can go on my Patreon and look at some of the links of my articles I wrote, at the time, who was the big public critic of Bob Chapek, the Disney CEO at the time, was Marvel CEO Feige. Kevin Feige was out there publicly talking smack against the boss, right? And was saying that he didn't like how the boss was doing the streaming strategies and this and that, right? And that it looked like maybe he told her to do this, right? And I said, "Nah, if I were Bob Chapek, what I would do if I were him in this situation where I've got this loudmouth Marvel president talking smack about me publicly, right, is I would then tell Scarlett, you know what? We'll give you anything you want. Don't worry about that." Like usually the agent probably calls, "Hey man, she deserves more money." They're like, "Yeah, yeah, she does. You know what? This is how we're going to do it. You sue us." Like, "What?" "Yeah, you sue us. You sue us because what's going to happen is then this other movie, the Shang-Chi movie, is about to come out. And we're going to, in response to your lawsuit, what we're going to do is we're going to do exactly what Kevin Feige said. We're going to release it the way he said to do it in the middle of the pandemic. We're going to do his strategy that he said we didn't do on Black Widow. And we're going to do it. And you see what happens." And of course, the moment Shang-Chi came out, following Kevin Feige's strategy, it made less money than Black Widow made, right? And so proving that his strategy would have made Black Widow less money. When that came out, I said, "Oh, this was all a scheme, and they're going to settle this tomorrow." 24 hours later, it was settled, and they gave Scarlett everything she wanted. And Feige was the only one left looking like a complete jackass because his entire claim had been disproven within a period of 6 weeks. The lawsuit came and went. It vanished because it was a plan. Scarlett Johansson got what she wanted. Bob Chapek got what he wanted. Kevin Feige didn't get what he wanted, right? He shut up after that. He never criticized Chapek again publicly, right? So, okay, so that's the backdrop. So it sounds like that's the kind of schemes that happened, right? Because people are like, why would she sue them? And why would they instantly solve it and give her everything she asked for? Maybe because they already agreed to do it that way. And Chapek got to get rid of a troublemaker in the process, right? So now today, what Sparrow was indicating to me is that the belief within Lucasfilm and Disney and from their own internal sourcing is that Bob Iger is planning to do a very similar kind of strategy here, right? Which is that now that there's a lawsuit, who is behind the lawsuit? Well, we know publicly it's Elon Musk because Gina Corano thanked him.
Yeah.
She thanked him in her Twitter that Elon Musk is financing this because per his August, I'll support anybody who was wrongfully terminated. So she's now publicly thanked him. And what we also know for the last few days is that Elon Musk has been publicly associating with Nelson Peltz, the major adversary of Bob Iger, who's leading a proxy war against him to unseat some of his board members and put Peltz's people on board, right? And so the straightforward reading of this is a lawsuit by Nelson Peltz and Elon Musk using Gina to achieve their objectives, which is to hurt and embarrass Iger and maybe get their proxy war victory, right? That's the straightforward reading of it. But again, is anything straightforward here? Because just like with Chapek, I'm like, well, let's look beneath the surface. If I were Bob Iger, because Bob Iger has known for quite some time that Miss Corano is unhappy with this situation. We know it. If we know she's unhappy, Bob Iger knows more of the details of why she's unhappy and what happened there, right? Okay. So yet he allowed her to get it to this place, right? Knowing that she publicly said that she will willing to take on Elon Musk's lawsuit offer. Why would he do that? If I were him, like if I were Bob Chapek, if I were him, and this is kind of what Sparrow indicated, their understanding of Iger's strategy is let this come and then do the Chapek flip, the Chapek judo move, right? Which is suddenly and quickly, and we'll see. Hopefully they'll get suddenly and quickly. Iger resolves this, because that's the smart thing to do right now, is to not allow this lawsuit, high-profile lawsuit with a very well-loved actress with a huge public following support, right? To not allow this to continue. The smart thing to do would be rapidly settle it and give her what she's asking for, which is not much, which is $75,000, and let's get back on the show.
Yeah, John, hold that thought real quick, just because I want to pay attention that the Ryder Brothers' cool aunt Galinda has shown up, and so we want to say hello, good to see you, one of our longest supporters, and you know, someone that gets the throwing the brakes on the show a type of attention. All right, go ahead, John.
All right, okay. Well, I'm sorry to interrupt. So now I'm going to give now. So if I may just let me just close out why would I? So how does this help Iger, right? So he settles this. Okay, that's the logical thing to do. Just like it was very logical for Chapek to quickly settle with Scarlett Johansson, right? So that's the likely outcome of here, with or without any strategy or scheming. That's what he should do. He should settle it, right? But what happens if he settles it in the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? He has till April 3rd, so it's a couple of months. It's literally 2 months before this shareholder meeting of the proxy vote. So even if he settles it last week of March, right? What does that give Iger? That gives Iger the ability to say, look, this was a Nelson Peltz created all this drama, forced me to pay all these lawyers to defend this. But that's not how Hollywood works, Nelson. His whole argument is that Peltz doesn't understand Hollywood. He's just a money guy, right? He doesn't understand. But how Hollywood works is you get handshakes. If Gina is so upset, you know, I could have just talked to her people. Granted, she lost her people, she lost her agent, she lost her lawyer. All that was taken away from her from this firing, right? UTA, her former agency, my former agency, dropped her. Her lawyer dropped her. So I mean, her reps are gone. But you know, but I could have. The way a Hollywood mogul does this with an actors, we just have a handshake. Oh, you felt you were mistreated? I resolved it. I settled it. We're all friendly now. And just as Chapek did, right after they settled with Scarlett, they effusive praise. They were giving her effusive praise. We love her. We're going to put her in this movie and that movie. It was as if they hadn't fought for the last 6 weeks, right? She became, because that's what you do. That's how you do it in Hollywood. We're all buddies now. We're all friends. You didn't need to sue. This is unnecessary drama. This is what someone who's immature about how Hollywood works handles things. However, Bob Iger, know how to handle these things, right? It's making Peltz look like an aggressive jackass, right? For even filing it, right? So suddenly you've got your entire argument. This guy doesn't know how to play the Hollywood game. I do. Shut down his proxy vote. That's the strength. Now I'm going to shut up.
What about, so 2 things. One, Gina Carano's personal interest. She wants to get her name righted. So why wouldn't she just take it to court? Why would she settle? Like, unless she's getting literally like $100 million extra dollars, already taxes paid, plus a house.
But she's not asking for that. I mean, she's not asking for a lot of money.
Right. So my thought is,
well, they can just give her what she's asking for right now. I mean, it's very easy.
So that's what she truly wants, or is she actually trying to poke the bear because they stripped her of everything based off a tweet? And that's
so. But if she's poking the bear, she should be suing for $500 million. She's not doing that.
No, that's what I'm saying.
She's suing for getting her job back. Right. If they give her a job back, she's gotten what she wants. Asked for.
Right, theoretically, but what if she's more suing for the principle? Like, as a person,
what principle? She's asked for her job back. What's the principle? She's asked for her job back.
Mostly the court, like in terms of an actual legal judgment showing that this was abusive, because then
what's the point of that? That's 5 years away. What's the point of that?
Right,
a legal process takes years. Why would you do that?
You've got. I'm just saying.
I'm just trying to see what's the value to her. She's an actress. She wants to be an actress. She said that in her thing.
Well, the value is what you said. So she's already been stripped of her everything. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, down to the point
Yeah.
that she was one of the first actresses to work with the Daily Wire in one of their movies. And even then, like, she hasn't gotten much since.
Yeah, because the Daily
And-
Wire is an intelligence operation. That's a whole other conversation. That's not. She's
Right.
bigger than that. She's bigger than
Right,
that,
exactly. But even the Daily Wire was bigger than that, but they wanted exclusivity and subscribers. They should have sold it or platformed it because the movie wasn't horrible. It was right up there with any other Western.
Yeah, no, but okay. Tell me just. Let's just look at what she asked for. She's asked for like $75,000 and her job back. I mean, it's going to cost more than $75,000 to prosecute this case, right? I mean,
Right.
It's going to cost
Right,
multiple exponential amount of that. She's asked for her job back. If tomorrow Bob Iger said she's back in Star Wars, that's inherently an apology. I mean, it's inherently an apology. They have to announce to the whole world they're giving her job back, right? Which means she's won. They've paid. I mean, she's proving that she's not greedy. She's asking for the monetary amount, $75,000, whatever it is, that she feels she's owed in her contract. So she gets to keep her honor, saying, "I didn't try to gain this for $100 million." The reason is because she said it in her tweet. She wants to be an actress again. She said it in her tweet. She wants to go back to storytelling. Fighting Disney is not going to give her that. If she fights a multi-year prolonged battle with Disney, no studio will ever hire her. What victory will she get at the end of that?
So
Getting
my
her
only
job back
theory-
tomorrow, she's won. She's back in the game.
Right.
So Cameron,
my-
I do have a question.
Sure.
And I think this is an important one to ask. Since we know that there's a very public disagreement between the on paper head of the studio, Kathleen Kennedy,
Mhm.
and Gina Carano.
Mhm.
If she's, if they say yes, she's back in action, what guarantees are there that they would actually cast, like Kennedy would actually cast her in anything? Like, wouldn't that be like, oh yeah, no, we'll hire you just as soon as we have a role for you, and then instruct her writers to never write a role with Cara Dune again?
Well, but then you
right?
couldn't. But that's a settlement, right? Whether she wins in court 5 years from now, which I don't think is the game, right? Or she gets a settlement in the next few weeks. The end result is an order. Part of the settlement is you will get this role for this much money. For this, you are guaranteed a job on this show. Let's assume it's Mandalorian or the Mandalorian movie or Rangers of the New Republic, and you're guaranteed this. And it'll be what we call pay or play, which is that they have to pay her regardless, right? And so they're going to pay her.
Ah, okay.
Might as well put her. That's what the thing is. One of the phrases we use is pay or play, which is something that actors, and even I get those project where, if you choose not to use me, you still got to pay me, so you might as well use me, right? There's no value to use me, right? So
That
go on.
makes
So
a lot of sense.
you had some. Okay.
My only theory is the only reason for that theory is Elon's funding it. So what was the conversation between Gina and Elon that led to him saying, "I'll front the money"?
Wait, did you say
it
what was the
wasn't a
conversation between
Well, I have no idea
Elon?
what that is.
Are we suggesting
Well, I
that
mean,
Gina and Elon are? Is that yeah?
They're one
Welcome
symbiote.
welcome to garbage gossip news on the Writer Brothers. No, I'm just kidding.
So Gina, no, I have no idea what those conversation was.
No, and
I can
that's-
only go with what the public thing is. She thanked him publicly. She had said in August
Right.
that I would like to take advantage of your offer to help me. That's all we know.
Right,
So-
and that's what I mean is like, was there a conversation that was like, no, make this public, take it to court, I'll fund the whole thing 5, 6, 20 years. You're already at the bottom. Let's hang out there for a little bit and then it'll be explosive. That's the
No.
theory where that came from.
I mean-
My theory though is why
What's your
why
thing?
Iger would do all of this and why Iger would
Mhm.
let it go the way it is, like he didn't just settle it before it became public, is because now he has cause. Like
Correct.
now-
You just hit it. You've just hit it.
Like, and that was the number one stipulation for removing Kathleen Kennedy was no cause, but she was the one that said no to Gina. She was
Ding, ding, ding,
the
ding.
actual
just
manager
hit
in
it.
charge of the fire.
You just hit it. You just hit it. You hit it on the nail. Because let's assume that this is an Iger strategy. Let's go with what Sparrow is claiming, right? Let's go with that theory, right? Because I can only tell you what I've been told. It makes sense to me as someone in the middle of this morass of this town. But you've just hit it. Because now Iger can say, because he's under tremendous pressure, he's being attacked by now 2 different shareholder groups, 2 different investors doing a proxy war, right? So he's being hit on all sides. And he can say, look, He can say to Kennedy, even if she's just a figurehead, he's got to say to her, because if he hired her tomorrow, Kennedy would be like, that's an insult to me. You've insulted me because I've been named in the lawsuit as the reason this happened. I've been named personally. So you've insulted me personally by bringing back this anti-Semite, whatever phrase she wants to use, right? She doesn't believe any of that, but she'll use it, right? So Iger's like, well, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Because we're being sued in the middle of a proxy war where I don't have time for this, right? And it's bad PR. So I'm going to settle this out. We're going to end this thing that you started. And guess what? You started this. So number one, I have cause against you because you brought dishonor to Disney. You brought a lawsuit to Disney. And now I'm going to reveal the second thing that Sparrow shared with me, which will tie into this, which is, and this is juicy gossip. Again, I wasn't in the room, so I have to take their word for it. But I have no reason, based on a year and a half now of them lying to me, the gossip inside of Lucasfilm itself, that today multiple people heard Jon Favreau, who is the shadow head of the company, right? Even though he's not publicly, even though we saw his name is the one on the Lucasfilm thing, mourning Carl Weathers. It isn't Kathleen Kennedy. It's why is Jon Favreau, this random guy's name on the thing honoring Carl Weathers just a few days ago, not Kathleen Kennedy. Interesting, right? So this guy was heard today, apparently, in the office saying to people in the office who would be responsible for this kind of activity, said, I need you to gather up all of Kathleen Kennedy's emails, because we need to preserve them and have them ready for discovery if this case goes to trial, right? So suddenly, all of her emails with every embarrassing thing she's ever said to anybody inside the company or outside the company, any scheme she's been involved in, anything that she said about Gina, anything that she said about Bob, suddenly they're now frozen and can be accessed, right? Because the company's trying to protect itself from legal liability. So now Iger has, not only did you bring me shame and dishonor, what's this email that you sent on October 31st, 4 years ago? That's, this thing could bring us some other liability. What's this all about? Oh, what's this thing here you said about about how here's this email. I'm just making stuff up now. Here's this email where you said to some one of your silly acolytes, you said to them, yeah, I know that Corano is an anti-Semite, but this is how we're gonna nail her. I mean, do you want any of those emails to get out? Right? If you get out, your reputation will be destroyed, just like all those executives. When the Sony leak happened, all the heads of studios rolled when all that stuff came out, right? And so you don't want that out there, because forever you will be tainted. And as I have said on my Patreon a few months ago, with this bizarre, strange acolyte project with Leslie Headland, I have declined to talk much further about it based on my last report, because Sparrow had dug deeper into what is behind this? Why is it still theoretically happening? Why is it not happening? What's behind it? And Sparrow had found indications, some very unsavory people that Kathleen Kennedy had gotten external financing outside of the company to finance whatever the hell she filmed, right? Whatever, half a pilot, whatever the hell it was, sizzle reel, whatever it is that she filmed, it wasn't financed by Disney money, and it was financed by some very unfortunate people that you don't want to be in business with, that Leslie Headland knew from her shady days as Harvey Weinstein's right hand. And so these are people that, let's just say that Weinstein is not the biggest threat. There's people at the Epstein level in the world that you don't want to be in business with, right? And that Headland had opened up that world to Kennedy. And that's a kind of email that definitely Kennedy doesn't want to get out, because then you're implicated in something that you really don't want to be associated with. That's going to make Harvey Weinstein look like a small-time player. You don't want to be knowing, you don't want emails about you and this person that would
not just emails, but literal financial receipts, dollars and cents changing hands. Like, correct. Harvey Weinstein was a problem child in a world of unregulated children. Like,
correct.
That's what I was saying earlier before you came on, Cameron, is like, that's the episode of DS9 that we talked about, was the idea of the Bar Association and the strike that happens in Quark's bar. And the whole thing that actually stopped the fight was the gangsters. It wasn't good, logical lawyers doing the law, organizing regulation, making people shake hands because they were going to go to blows, but reasonable heads prevailed. No, it's all gangs. Like, it is.
Well, those are the origin of a civilization. Gangs destroy a civilization and create a new one, and the lawyers paper it up.
Well, they are their own civilization, their tribes, their clans, their cults. Like, they are their own echo chambers, and they spend their own time in their own house. And when you give them billions of dollars, well, they're not exactly the smartest among us. They're Hollywood. They're actors. They're the kids that went to theater while the rest of us went to physics. Like,
all right, now I'm gonna have to stop you there. Don't do that. Don't do that.
No, but
Art is central. Don't do that.
No, art is
art is very hard. It's harder than physics. I know, because I've tried to act. It's really hard.
It is. But those artists don't spend time in QuickBooks. They don't spend time in accounting.
Many of them are not financially literate. That's fair.
And so they also aren't usually politically literate in terms of who their funding is coming from. Everything we just described. That's what I mean. That's the gang part.
But in this case, Kathleen Kennedy is someone who should be literate of these people, and so she'd be very aware of the associations she had. So
isn't even that how she got her job? Like, she supposedly rose to power because she's one of the ones that actually helped out Harvey, right?
Well, there's a lot of those people, and most of them are still in power right now, and so they're not going to want anything that's going to touch them coming out.
No,
so that's why the threat is now, I've got cause against you because you brought a lawsuit to me. That's a bigger problem than the Acolyte lawsuit that's still ongoing, apparently, with Karen McCarthy, right? Because this is people, the average person doesn't care about Karen McCarthy. They don't know who she is. They care about Gina Carano. It's a bad PR problem.
Yeah. And it's a huge PR problem because regardless of whether or not Gina settles or anything like that, it works. The more, like, it's the gang shit. Like, it's, sorry to keep repeating that, but it's the idea that, like, if you're going to act like a gangster, gangsters are going to come knocking. And a lot of this is like Pinocchio Fantasy Island, where a lot of people go to Hollywood thinking they're going to achieve their fantasy dreams and actually become a beautiful, honorable angel that can bring grace to every house they walk in. But then they realize that they're just kids in pedo world. And they're going to enslave you if they can and if they're smarter than you. And that's what's been happening for years. And Gina Carano's like, well, if you guys are going to be mean, I can win legally and justifiably. And that's why I say, like, maybe she had a conversation with Elon that, like, you know what? No, this isn't to help Iger. If anything, this is to paint him exactly as he is. And
well, again, Gina is in no way involved in these machinations. She's simply trying to get what she wants, which is what she's claimed. She wants her job back. She wants her job back. She wants to be made whole for some of the money they owe her, which is not a lot of money. She's very honorable about that. She could, if she was a sleazebag, she'd be suing them for $200 million, making all kinds of obnoxious claims. She's being very honorable and dignified. She wants her job back. She wants like $75,000. That's nothing, right? And that makes her look more honorable to the court, that this is the principle is that she's asking them to just treat her correctly. And I think we can all conclude that it doesn't make sense for Iger to spend $5 million defending this case rather than give her $75,000 plus her salary on the show, which ain't going to come up to $5 million, right? And so economically, just his problem child. Yeah. And again, it's a win-win for everyone except for Kathleen. Yeah. Yes.
Well, when you think about it, right? Yeah, like when you think about it, like we've talked about Iger being the chess master, right? Mm-hmm. And he's set up a perfect situation where no matter where, Kennedy moves on the board, he gets rid of her. No matter where, Peltz plays the game, he makes Peltz look the fool, right? He set himself in a position where he's like, okay, guys, move and watch what happens next. Right?
Yeah, it's a no-win situation. This is, I think, in the Chinese game of Go, the idea is to trap your opponent, right? That's what they're trapped. No matter what move, they can't get out, right? Every move benefits him ultimately, even though it doesn't seem to, right? In the same way that Chapek benefited from Johansson, it's not just me. That was my theory. Then our friend Doomcock actually got a report at that time from one of his sources. I can't confirm it, but he got a report saying that Scarlett Johansson had privately met Bob Chapek to work out this scheme between them. I can't confirm that report, but our friend Doomcock had that report and it aligned with my theory of it, right? And so I don't know if we're ever going to find out what the machinations that you want to know, Elon Musk, and what the conversations were. We're probably never going to find those out, right? It doesn't matter. What matters, I think, is what we all want, which the fans, the vast majority of the fans, want Miss Carano back. whatever anyone thinks of her politics, she's a good actress. She was good in that role. She's a likable human being, and I don't think she was treated fairly. And someone pointed out, and this is the whole conversation. I'm sure this will also inspire people like Melissa Barrera, who's a firebrand, who was also fired for the same false claim of anti-Semitism, to fight back. So there's going to be a lot of people in Hollywood that are going to want to see this thing settled before it creates a fire they can't control.
Oh, there was one other question I had.
Yes, and then I got
back when you had the when you posted about the Mandalorian movie, you mentioned that there might be some sort of big reveal that would surprise everybody and would be a little bit of a tearjerker. Could that be Gina coming back onto the scene?
I mean, I was not given privy the information from Sparrow as to they had read the script. They had read the Mandalorian script, the initial draft that was finished of the feature movie, and they were said this is good. There was a lot of nonsense on YouTube about they just took 2 episodes of the Mandalorian and put them together, and he said no, this is a script, and it's a movie script, and it's really good. It's a Star Wars movie. It's worthy of being the next movie after years of no feature films released in the theater, right? And that already that draft was worthy of that, and they had indicated to me that that there was a moment in there where they got teary-eyed, that there was a reintroduction of certain characters and one moment that got them teary-eyed. Now, who's that? Is that Leia's return? Is that who? I don't know. They didn't tell me. They didn't want to tell me because if they tell me too much, everyone's going to figure out, hey, were you the one leaking to Cameron? So okay, so they didn't. So I said, I don't want to know. I mean, they actually told me a lot about what was going to happen on Ahsoka, which I didn't publicize because I was like, I don't want to put them in that position. But this time they didn't tell me and I didn't ask. Right. So, however, I will indicate another thing that they said to me is that Carl Weathers' passing, God bless him, has put Jon Favreau in a very awkward position, right? It wouldn't be surprised anyone that Carl Weathers' character Grief, the magistrate, was supposed to be in that movie. He's an important character in The Mandalorian, right? And I don't think anyone was surprised by that. And Carl Weathers was quite beloved at Lucasfilm. That's the word. And people were literally getting grief counselors. They were so upset of his passing. And so just before all this happened last week, Sparrow told me that Favreau is heartbroken that because he can consider Weathers a friend, right? Yeah. As he said in his public release. But now he's got to deal with it because Weathers was in the script, probably, right? And so what another solution, if you've got to write out Carl Weathers for important actions, stuff, wouldn't it be easy to just replace him with his protege in The Mandalorian, Cara Dune? It might be easy to just swap out the character and bring her back to play the roles that Carl Weathers was supposed to play, action star replacing action star. It's probably not a major rewrite if you have to do that. If you have to edge both of them out, then you have to fix a bunch of scenes, which is delaying his ability to make this movie on time, right? Yeah. So suddenly there's a lot more pressure to just bring her back, let me put her in the movie. Yeah, and let's all be happy here.
Yeah, and before you give your final remarks, Jedi Master Jin asks, what about the droid attack on the Wookiees? Or, excuse me, what about the Kieran McCarthy suit?
I will say this, I'm almost even afraid to talk about it because last time I spoke about this thing, I had people of bad moral character claiming that I'm lying about the whole thing. So, yes, I've been in communication with their attorney. People claim that's not even true. It's insanity, right? But I actually received, I actually reached out today to Karen McCarthy's attorney after this event's happened. Just sent them a text saying, "Are you still in? Has this been settled? Have you guys resolved this? Is Gina's lawsuit going to help you in any way?" And I received just a text back from them indicating that it has not been resolved. So apparently, and again, that's no surprise. If it had been settled, we would have heard it in the news, right? Yeah. So that's no shocking breaking news there, right? And that we're setting a time to talk, and maybe they'll give him information. And again, people were like, "Yeah, you're not talking to him. You're making it up." I'm like, Jesus Christ! I mean, it's like it's literal insanity when I've had people say that. I'm like, you think I'm gonna make up talking to a publicly well-known attorney when I'm a former attorney myself? There's a lot of mental illness in YouTube. There's mental illness in YouTube, right? It's just like, yeah, I would do that. Something that can easily be confirmed, right? Yeah, publicly by the court. It's just madness, right? However, that is the conversation I had. I don't have any information except that it's not settled.
Yeah. Cameron, I feel like you're dealing with a lot of the same stuff I'm dealing with. My son, who's 3, he'll regularly be like, "No, Daddy, that's not true." And I'll be like, "You just asked for chips." And he'll be like, No, I didn't.
Yeah, you're dealing with people that have the mentality.
They're about as witty as my child. Like, they just want you to be wrong, so they're telling you you're wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And they think, it's just like, a
Yeah.
dude who went to law school and was a lawyer, and I got nothing better to do than make up talking to attorneys. I make lies about that. It's easily confirmed by
and
Jonathan.
It's getting you so far.
Yeah. And I think Jonathan G94 leaves us with, I think, the best comment regarding the everything we've talked about. Cameron says, "What's so tragic about Carl Weathers' passing is we will never see him and Gina on screen together again. Another damnation of Kathleen Kennedy's insane decision to let her go." Yeah, not just, and it just add to the fact that we don't get Luke, Han, Leia, and Lando in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon together one last time like we should have. Hey, at least we got something out of Picard season 3.
So that's correct. That will be on the many of the epithets we're going to have for her when she steps down. But right now we're in a situation of go where she can't go. She's nowhere she can go. So again, we'll see how it all plays out. Don't be startled if in the near future this lawsuit is settled in Gina's favor, and that the lawsuit provides the cover to allow her to return to the Mandalorian movie, and then maybe even bring back, maybe the settlement, maybe like we'll give you back Knights of the New Republic. Guess what? Who wants that more than Gina? Jon Favreau wants that more than Gina because his Knights of the New Republic show is dead. So he'd want that settlement, right? Oh, you're going to guarantee her Knights of the Republic? Great. That means my show's back, right? So don't be surprised by any of that. And in that scenario, unfortunately, Kathleen Kennedy has put herself in the position. It's me or her. And for the few years, it was Kathleen's the one that's safe. Well, if it's me or her, if that's the binary, if you're going to be legally forced to make it, Gina, then how much longer can Kathy claim to be the president if she's forced to bring back an employee that she has publicly called an anti-Semite? I mean, at that point, it sounds like something you'd step down for, wouldn't it? Yeah,
Exactly. Jonathan G94 corrects that's Rangers of the New Republic, which yes, that's technically correct. But since you said Knights of the New Republic, no. I think a Jedi Academy TV series that brings in Kyle Katarn and shows us the new Jedi Order, and then the Knights of Ren never show up, I think is a great idea for a show, Cameron, and I'm glad you inadvertently suggested it.
I did the thing that you did earlier, where it's like was it Elon Gina? What do you? Yeah, I think you brought them together. So I've now melded them into one force, one entity. Yeah. So yes, it's Rangers of the New Republic. I would love. God bless her. I only wish Gina the best. Same. I will reiterate: Gina Corano is not playing any games. Sparrow has said that to me. She's not involved in any of these.
She doesn't strike me as the type to play games in any capacity.
She is doing this. That doesn't mean that people who aren't aware of her intentions and actions didn't strategize around how they could benefit from it. Yeah. I mean, if in August she says, can you help me sue them? If she says that publicly in August on Twitter, if I'm Bob Iger, I'd be like, okay, they're thinking of suing me. What's my game plan? That's what you do, right? So she's doing her thing with honor, and may she get what she asked.
Well, and as we've always speculated throughout this entire course, it's like it's basically John doesn't have an army. John never once met Kathleen Kennedy on the battlefield with an army. John waged a one-man war against Kathleen Kennedy, and he's continuing to wage his one-man war. So, yes, he may have had a conversation with her, but there probably was just half of what he intended, her to carry out, because he knows she's just going to go do what she needs to do, take care of business, and he's going to, put his piece in motion because, well, he's Jon Favreau. He's not a... John strikes me as the type of guy that if you're good to him, he's good and straightforward to you. If you try to BS him, he's going to out-BS you. And that's it. And there's no insults. There's no, I'm going to kill your children or anything like that. It's just, you're trying to screw me over. Okay. See you on the other side of this bad idea.
No, I and that's the last thing I'll say is I'll go. That's been my philosophy as well. Because again, my whole career I've survived. I mean, I'm not nowhere near yet what Jon Favreau has accomplished, but I've survived with the philosophy of, because I don't random Muslim Pakistani guy with no support network. The fact that I've survived 23 years in a hostile town, right, doesn't really like me, my politics or my religion, right, and I'm still here working. It's come from this thing of hopefully having that philosophy of being straightforward and honest, which doesn't always make you friends. But then when someone comes at me, and I've had people come at me like to knock me out of the game, knock me out of a job, knock me permanently out of my career. Right? Okay, I've had that, and I have a very simple philosophy: is that if you pull a knife on me, I pull a bazooka and finish it. It's one shot. It's one. I mean, I'm taking martial arts. It's one punch, one kill, because I'm underestimated, and the presumption is I'm not going to do anything. Jon Favreau, sort of looks like a big teddy bear, and that's a nice guy, right? But he's a guy that didn't become the man he is by being a nice guy when he's threatened. And so my whole thing is, in the past, when I've had legal disputes, I try to avoid legal disputes for the reason I talk about. I don't like them.
Yeah.
Bad karma. Resolve things, shake your hands. But sometimes you got people that aren't willing to do that, right? And then I'm like, the one time that happened to me, where someone was not willing to resolve things honorably, and I said, okay, if you're going to take it to this level, then I went and hired the most feared litigator in Hollywood, Doug Johnson from Johnson Johnson LLP, right? He literally sues the studios and wins all the time. And he just I was like, I put him on retainer, give him $10,000, said, just make one phone call.
Yeah.
And he made one phone call to the attorney of the other side. And the moment they got the phone call from Doug Johnson of Johnson Johnson, they folded. They said because they're like, okay, this you're serious. We were just threatening him to make him do what we wanted, right? But he's actually gonna go to war. I was like, yeah, because I was willing to sue. I was willing to sue and be sued. I was like, willing to do it. Because once you cross the threshold, you gotta fire. That's philosophy. You don't. Everyone in this town that's full of nonsense pulls a gun as a threat. No, if my philosophy is, if you're pulling the gun, you're firing at that moment.
Exactly.
It's the old gunslinger thing. It's like you fire. You don't think about it. You don't threaten anyone. If you are in danger and you have no choice, you pull the gun and your finger is already squeezing the trigger by the time you've aimed. You never threaten. Threaten is the act of weakness.
That's so crazy.
So the moral of the story is, if you try to shoot King Kamran, don't miss.
Yeah. And see, I don't make threats, but I do give warnings, which is why I don't point it at it. But occasionally, I might pull up my shirt and just say, hey, remember, I'm reasonable until I'm not, but you've been warned.
I don't do that. I actually won't give warnings.
It's that's part of my... There is wisdom in the conceal... Hey, there is wisdom in the conceal carry and quick draw method. I do not disagree with your stance on it. Fault, because I just like to be fair and say, hey, see this? Remember in movies how this Desert Eagle is scary? Yeah, that.
No, I give no warning because I've already been underestimated. The fact that it's reached that stage where someone has threatened me, so a warning is irrelevant because they've already underestimated me. So if I give a warning to them, it's a sign of weakness. He thinks he's gonna back me up.
I'm sorry. Do we need to get some private security down to California right now? I can be there in like 8 hours.
I'm speaking metaphorically. I'm speaking legal bullets.
Okay.
Yes.
Cameron, you reminded me.
I gotta Paul.
All right.
You reminded me of a rule. Well, on your way out, I'll say it. But you reminded me of a rule my friend from Azerbaijan taught me, and it's if you pull the knife and don't use it, you deserve to be stabbed by it.
Yeah.
Well, that's Azerbaijan. That's Central Asia. They got 10,000 years of history of how things work. Right?
Well, yeah. The guy you're stabbing is not supposed to know you have a knife until you've already stabbed him.
Exactly, and you never threaten with it. Otherwise, you deserve to have it used on you. Like it's that whole if you can't deal, don't dish. And
never threaten.
Exactly.
Always try to resolve the problem.
I agree.
Always try to resolve the problem honorably, graciously, and if the other side wants to go to a terrible place, there's no time to fight. Fighting is a drain of your energy. You just finish them. One shot, one kill, and finish them. And they're done. And I've got a few adversaries on YouTube that don't understand that yet because they're like, oh, the guy hasn't done anything. I'm like, the one person I did that to, I waited 3 years, and then it took, and then they were done. One time. And so just be patient. Be patient.
Yeah.
Darth Sidious was right.
Or just be smart and don't engage and don't make threats. That's why I said I don't give threats. Threats are pathetic. I do, however, issue warnings. Yeah, don't kick. That's why I don't. So I don't care for it. No, that's why I tell people. It's like people say, oh, don't tell people where you live. I live in a carry state. Come be a dumbass.
All right. Well, on that note, because I don't live in a carry state, right?
But they did just make proper self-defense tools completely legal in your area now. So that's what I'm saying. If we need to muster up the security team, say the word, we'll be there.
Well, there's Burn Tech, which I really like. They have non-lethal. They have essentially what are non-lethal guns, right? Which are legal in California, where you basically shoot pellets that will stun the other person. And despite all the angry leftists in this town, that's perfectly legal here. So whatever. On that note, guys.
All right, Cameron,
thank you for your time.
Yes. So
I was gonna say, subscribe to Cameron's Patreon. It's amazing. I put a link in the chat, so we've got you covered, Cameron.
Thank you guys. Everyone stick around here. We've got almost like 24 people watching. Let's stick around. The conversation is going to continue, and hopefully we'll be able to share more information on this channel in the near future. All right?
Absolutely.
All right. God bless everyone. Peace.
All right, we are now winding down. We don't have a whole lot of time, but that's okay because we're only going to kind of talk about the first 2 episodes.
Because we were blessed with a guest.
We were blessed with Cameron's time, so that is I'm okay for it eating up most of the show, because guess what? I can also talk about Masters of the Air next week. It's like Band of Brothers, but with warplanes. Yes, please hit like and subscribe. Please share, get the good word out there. If you guys like what we're doing, we want to continue to grow. And to do that, of course, we're going to talk about Apple TV products, because Apple is, right now, if there was one streamer, if you had to pick, because of all the crappy streamers deciding, we're going to go ahead and put in our ad plans and increase the ad-free stuff, and now streaming, as we all knew, it's like being aware that streaming was going to turn into cable. It just kicked the can down the road. It didn't stop it from happening. But good job, guys. We kind of stopped it for a minute, and now we're here. So, thank you, Don. I appreciate the poster. And, of course, I saw Angelina back. Welcome, one of our newest supporters. She's shown up to just about every broadcast, whether it's game, stream, or podcast, and it's awesome to see you here. But, yes, if you like Band of Brothers, but you want more of a warplane aspect, then you definitely need to check out Apple TV's Masters of the Air. Corion, I'm sure at the very least you must be thrilled with the opening titles, because on this very show, you have been complaining nonstop about how everybody's opening titles looks the same. When can we get back to classic titles where we see the people and the names and the... Oh my god. I mean, this one, I gotta say, like, you know what? I'll let you rave about it, because your day has finally come. We picked a show. It's gotta kick
finally, like the I don't know which gods were listening to me, but I'm certainly glad they were, that we finally got a unique, wonderful style of opening that isn't just geographic kaleidoscopes of vaguely associated imagery. No, this is planes. This is the guys. This is showing scenes of them running around and doing stuff.
What? No gear works? No turning shit with like...
No gear works, no turning stuff.
No shots of the assembly line of the B-17 getting put together.
No, decent music that feels appropriate to the thing and isn't just there to build dread. Like, it actually was a classic style opening. It felt like a good companion piece to Band of Brothers and the Pacific. It belonged, like it was a third chapter in a string of books. I'm really happy that we've got a solid open, and it made me want to watch the show, despite the fact that, of course, I was raised in a house with a Army NCO and a Navy nurse NCO.
Right, so you should be waiting for them.
Well, and the only thing the two of them could agree on in their entire marriage was that the Air Force sucks. So,
I agree.
Well, I think if you take a look at the what this panel is made of, there is nobody that is going to argue the joys of the Air Force here. But, look, I appreciate that. There's a lot of quality that was put into enticing us to join the show. And I do want to get into some of the things that I thought they did very, very right. But let's hear from everybody else here.
Yeah, I mean, this is, of course, more of a teaser discussion for next week, but that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I will say...
Honest. Huh? It really feels like Bill Burr's stand-up comedy bit about, like, the first person in sports, like the first person of color in American sports. And now we're down to swimming. Like, same thing for war movies. Now we're down to the Flyboys.
Yeah, finally, right? I will say this though. One of the things that I really
John,
appreciate...
I gotta respond to that. I'm sorry, real quick, John. That's funny, but I gotta say that the timing of this show I'm glad they waited until now to get to this one, because they actually spent, you know, similarly to Godzilla -1, they actually invested a pretty good budget in the VFX for this show, because
This show was expensive.
there were some shots of the planes, I'm like, yeah, that's a 3D image. And then there's some other shots, especially when they're flying through the various valleys of Norway and Sweden, and I'm just like,
This
well
is astonishing.
done. Like, money
There's
well
actually-
spent.
There's so much possibility that that was actually like filmed with the camera flying on an adjacent plane, because like the amount of stunt planes that I've seen that like people jump off of to do parachute tricks and stuff. Like there was a whole show on MTV about it that I used to love, or it was Spike, I can't remember what channel it was on, but it was a great show. And they used to try the craziest stunts. And so like one dude was like naked on one of those planes and parachuted and caught his parachute.
As is tradition in the human race.
Yeah.
But like that's the same.
Everything
that
that's like
energy
rule number
is-
what, 7 for humanity? Everything must be done naked at least once.
Yeah, I think it's like book 1 in the Bible. Everybody was naked.
Well, I mean,
those
you know what I
shots of
honestly
the-
assumed in some of
All
those
that's to
shots?
say- all that's to say is that like they make planes for those crazy stunts. What's to say they haven't made a flyby plane that can fly side by side with those bombers?
You know what I actually assumed that they had done? Because this was how good it was. The only way I could see them having done it was they had a whole flight of RC planes, and they were using forced perspective to make that work. But, you know, like that's how good it looked.
How
Well,
about
that's even
what's from the
cooler,
inside of the
because
plane
that
when they're
means that,
getting
like,
ripped
10
up by
different
fighters?
kids with remote
Yeah.
control planes were used on a job site. So like all you kids who got remote controls for Christmas, there's a reason to get good. Like
Yeah.
that's a huge thing in film development. Being able to take small objects, make them look big, or at the very least pilot them. Woo!
Yeah.
Money.
Yeah.
I'm also gonna say this. One of the things that I really appreciated in this series so far has been the bombers feel cramped, like appropriately cramped, and that
Gritty
is
and,
so good.
But like
buggy.
also huge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like I
No,
didn't
they were
know
called
you
the
could
Fortress for a
actually walk
reason.
in those things.
When
I've
those
always thought that like they were basically like cones in the back made of paper mache.
Yeah.
And then the front with like the cockpit
All
and the
stop.
pilot.
All stop.
It's crazy.
I'll stop. Another new. Granted, he's a newer supporter of the channel, but he's already cross-streamed with us more than anybody else so far. Please welcome, of course, from the chat, Mr. Dracublaze Gaming says, "It's the homies. It's the homies, brother. It's you." Welcome. We're talking about Masters of the Air, the greatest show on Apple TV. I say that with every show we watch at Apple TV. It's because if you're again gonna pick any streamer out of all of them to keep right now, Apple TV should be at the top of your list, and then 50 Feet
And
of
if-
Crap, and then the rest.
If you think that Parker is super biased, he still thinks Foundation was bad. I disagree entirely, but he actually does have one that he didn't like.
But meanwhile, Netflix has piles of crap. Max has piles of crap. Paramount is a pile of crap, and well, I mean, Prime Video.
Prime occasionally comes up with something good.
Prime is the one sort of weird gray area, because Prime Video actually started as a bonus for your shopping experience. So for them to decide, yeah, we're going to throw ads on there and then increase, it's like, well, okay, the original reason people got Prime was mainly because of the shopping thing. So if that's the free version of the video service, which they now need to charge more money, you know, Prime is the one that kind of has a little bit more going for it. That makes sense. Netflix, however, no, sorry, I just don't buy the excuse. Paramount, joke.
Netflix.
It's like, yeah, and then, yeah. So, but what I do like, yes, the planes feel, the comm chatter is also 100%. That's exactly how it would work. The pilots in the cockpit are the only ones who are going to talk to the commanding officer, the lead plane, who's then the only one that's going to talk to home base. That was all normal, and yes, that's basically the job of the captain, not just to fly the plane, but to keep the crew informed of what's going on so the crew knows how to react or respond. But the crew doesn't need to know what's going on in, you know, Flying Fortress 25, because Flying Fortress 25 is dealing with its own problems. They have their own chain of command and their own problems. So it's just really nice to see that in the film represented. Like, yep, that's exactly how the lines of communication work. That's how it's all efficient. That's why they're able to communicate so effectively with where the fighters are at. And it's just, yeah, this movie feels intense. There isn't a moment where I'm like thinking in this like, oh yeah, this is simple. I'm like, this does, John, you said it earlier, where it's like glorifying warfare. And I think with what was mentioned,
it shows the horror quite well. When the crew comes limping back and they're just ripped to shreds, it's just like, whoa.
Yeah, and it does a very good job of showing the futility.
Only the horror of the good guys. Like, it doesn't show how bad we got. And that's the part that frustrates me, is like, that's always been my favorite part about being a Marine, is like, Marines never actually were offended by the term baby killer or baby eater. We just thought it was funny. You thought we were so grotesque. And that's because of the things that we did and were claimed to have done in Okinawa and in all of the other islands as we made our way to Japan. Like, we were not friends. We weren't honorable guys just trying to get these guys to be nice to us. We were monsters, and we were good at it. And we fought for each other, and that's fair. But, like, we've highlighted so much of the bond. When are we going to admit that we trained monsters? We trained animals to do animalistic behavior, and we never actually thought what would happen when they came home.
Well,
like,
John, and please take this as the joke it's intended. But, I mean, the reason why we called you guys baby eaters and whatnot is because, you know, we didn't exactly assume you were using a knife and fork either. I mean, you know, we assumed that you guys just didn't know how. So, there is that.
No, the show does a good job of and that same with Band of Brothers and even the Pacific. They both do a good job of trying to be an honest take on the warfare. And I think you're right, John. I think the next step for these guys is to maybe consider doing a series, but from the German perspective, because there's a scene
No, I think that the honest answer is to show what we did to Tokyo later on in the season.
That too, yeah.
If you honestly show what we did to Japan before the nukes, because a lot of people talk about the nukes, but nobody talks about
pales in comparison.
The reason Japan is the country that it is today is because they started from ground zero.
Well, yeah, just
as a nation, not as one part or one city or two cities.
But anyway, I need to get this thought out because we're about out of time and it's time to get ready for closing remarks. But no, the scene in Band of Brothers that sticks out the most, and it's the thing that people need to go back and study history. You know, when you're busy trying to look yourself in the mirror and think you're better than Nazis. The thing about it is the scene where they disband the German infantry is such a powerful moment because they ask, hey, what's he saying? Because he's speaking to his troops in German. And he goes, you know, we fought an honorable war for our country. We fought what we believed in. You all did your best. And nobody should be, you know, feel bad about this. It's just we lost. We tried our best. And you're hearing, you know, similar sentiment that the Americans, you know, were being told in victory. And that's when you start to realize that a lot of these soldiers had no idea what their regimes were
just
doing.
Like you and
exactly. The soldiers, that's why I say, you know, when it comes to warfare, no one's really the good guys or bad guys except the soldiers that fought on the battlefield thinking they were fighting the good fight.
I'm thinking like that, like Major Winters, he runs up on that hill and he spots that. He's just a kid, basically, and he's just like, and he just shoots him. It's like,
yeah.
Brutal.
It is. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Cosmic Vader, good to see you. Also, of course, Drake and Blaze, Stephanie Janicek, Wintrell, hope to see you back. Don Rangers Power, Daniel Larson, Cool Aunt Galenda, Jonathan G94. I think that's everybody. Mike Loves Cats, also good to see you as well. Zach popped in and is checking out the replay. And, of course, the Nerdporial Lifeform and Nemesis of Eden. Always good to see all of you. Please continue to like, share, subscribe. Jedi Master Jen, get everything out there. Get the word out there so we can continue to grow. I don't know what's going on. I'll probably be back.
Thank you, everybody.
We got to figure out what we're talking about on Friday. please join us for our casual discussion. This week, I think we're going to
Mike
talk...
love cats.
I did say Mike loves cats, but guess what? We can shout him out twice.
Say it again.
Yeah, say it again. Say
about
Mike
cats?
loves cats as many times as we need to.
Disney sheep herder.
Yes,
Yes,
Disney
that's
sheep
right.
herder.
There you go.
Absolutely. Thank you. Much appreciated. Yes, we have reached the end of the show, and that means that we don't have Rogue Council this week, and so that'll be back the following week. I'm Pete York, the Ryder Brothers. See you when I see you. Good night. This has been a presentation of the Ryder Brothers Tuesday Night Live Show. The Ryder Brothers, honest, quality human content.